Right. Welcome to the Healthy Hustling Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Broadworth, and I'm joined today by Jack Ginn. Jack is a strength and conditioning coach. He does a lot with agility. He's working locally here in the West Michigan area with Allendale High School athletics, and especially like their football program. He was also the offensive coordinator at Grand Valley State University for their football team. And Jack and I have gotten to know each other a bit over the years, just working in the same area. I also worked with Jack's wife at my previous employer. And so, yeah, Jack, thanks for coming on here.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Yeah. So today we are going to talk about something that is definitely a bit different. So it's called Reflexive Performance Reset, RPR, for short. And the reason I wanted Jack to come on here because he's really changed a lot with what I do with my athletes, and also just helped to change my mindset on how I'm working with these athletes a little bit. And it's through this RPR. Now, Jack, you contacted me. When was this? I think it was April, because it was beginning-ish, about probably a month into the pandemic and everything. So I think it was April. It was definitely springtime, because I remember I was talking to you. I was on my back patio, and Sherry had called me up and was like, "Hey, Jack wants to talk to you about this RPR. Have you ever heard of this stuff?" And I'm like, "No, not at all." And so you started talking to me about it, and you kind of like, you were blowing my mind a little bit. And I'm like, I don't know how much I'm buying into any of this stuff. So I had to research it a little bit for myself. And to be honest, like when you're going through it with me, I'm like, I'm not buying this at all. This has to be a bunch of placebo. I don't know what's going on, but I ended up taking a course in it. I loved it, and it's really changed how I'm working with my athletes and a lot of what I'm doing with them. So, how did you get introduced to RPR, Reflexive Performance Reset?
Well, right before the pandemic hit, honestly, I got fired from my job at Grand Valley with fall. So I had a little time, and I started studying some people that I had an interest in and followed a little bit, but never really dove in. And I took the time to really dive into it. A guy named Tony Holler, who's a track coach, and Chris Corfus, coach in the Chicago area, and so they were just talking about RPR like it was something everybody knew about, and so that kind of got me going. And then I tried to research it as much as I could, and then kind of reached out to you and some other people that I know that I think are way smarter than me, and you kind of grabbed it and ran with it and found out about it, and you basically you did the research for me and but these guys are, I think, really smart, and they were all about it. So I thought, yeah, there probably is something to it, and so yeah, we used it this fall at Allendale with what I do there, and it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah. So, just to dive into a little bit about what RPR is like a really brief synopsis. RPR, Reflexive Performance Reset, is a simple system of breathing and tactile input. So doing some different rubs on your body. And you're doing this, and you are essentially resetting your body through this input to really your nervous system. And you're getting out of this constant sympathetic state that we're in, this fight or flight state, and allowing our body to more easily get into a parasympathetic state, a rest and digest phase. And so you'd mentioned the guys that came up and have brought this into the strength and conditioning world is Cal Dietz, J.L. Holdsworth, and Chris Corfitz. And they're the ones teaching it. They got it from a physical therapist down in South Africa named Doug Heel, who his is called Be Active is the
Be
program.
act, be activated.
Be Activated. Yep. And
Yeah.
so they learned it from him and saw some of the wild results that he was getting. And Cale Dietz, he's the head strength coach for University of Minnesota, and so he's using it with all their athletes and the women's national ice hockey team. And so when I knew that like these guys were on board with this, that I had to learn a little bit more about it. And like you'd mentioned, Jack, it's becoming more prominent in West Michigan. And so you'd really showed me some like YouTube videos too, which it was
Yep.
pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, here's when someone's asking me about it, here's the story I tell. And you were part of this. So we one of the things that we do at Allendale now is we time flying 10-yard sprints, and so we had to buy a free lap timer to do that with, which was a pretty sizable amount of money. And so we got our free lap timer sometime in July, mid-July.
Yeah. And those use chips on the kids, so they know
Yes.
like exactly, point A to
Yeah.
point B, what they're
Yeah, you're electronically timed.
Yeah.
And, so we timed flying 10-yard sprints with our entire group. There were 51 kids that ran. And that was on the first day was July the 20th. And 4 days later, so on the 24th, you came out there and with us at Allendale, and you taught our players RPR. You had already taken the course and all this, and I wanted someone besides me to be this salesman that, they saw me every day. Like, all right, I wanted somebody different. Okay, this guy's got something, blah, blah, blah. And so you went out there and taught our players RPR, and then we timed again that day. So we had 51 guys time both days, 4 days apart, same place, same direction, nothing different, except the second day they did RPR. And we had 7 guys run slower. We had 7 guys run the exact same time. All right. And we had 37 run faster. So 37 out of 51 ran faster, and the only thing we did different was RPR.
Yeah. There were no other drills or anything like that in between.
We didn't do any drills. All we did was run 3 sprints and went home. That's all we did both days, except instead of stretching and warming, we just did RPR. And then we continued that through the summer. We continued it into football. Our football team did RPR every day. For practice, we don't stretch. We had 0 soft tissue stuff. That's not true. We had 1 minor hamstring problem on the last day before they ended football, before they started back up for high schools in Michigan. And that kid later on in the season was telling somebody else, he's like, you got to take this serious, because if you don't, that's what happens.
Oh.
That's what you don't know is the kid really doing it?
A little bit. What did
he said, oh, I'm sorry. He said he was telling another player later in the year, he's like, hey, you got to take this RPR serious, because if you don't, this is what happened to me one day when I was just kind of halfway doing it and, really wasn't getting anything out of it, and then almost, injured myself. Yeah. And so our kids, like, and other people I've done it with, they can usually feel it. And I know I can. I do it almost every morning. And, I can tell.
Yeah.
Like if I'm hitting it right, not hitting it right, whatever. I've done it with, other adults, and it always works. Like, it's amazing stuff, really.
Yeah. I've added it into my training. So like before I go and do my workout for the day. I'm trying to incorporate that for the most part every single time. And yeah, I'll feel better. I'll feel a bit looser, feel like I'm moving better. And, and I'll do the test with people, and people don't believe me when I'm doing the test and I'm pushing them around. And initially, like, especially if I call it getting locked in. If they're not locked in, I can throw them across the room pretty much. And it doesn't matter. Like, I've got some big dudes that I've pushed around the room, like, 250 pounds, shouldn't be able to budge them. And what I tell them is when I've got someone locked in, when this works, I could have a 15-year-old female athlete. I am not going to move her. I'm not going
Right.
to move her like I shouldn't. And so, especially when it comes to our bigger athletes, like, I shouldn't be able to move you at all. Like, you're way bigger than me, and you should be able to easily hold. And so, I'll be able to push them around. We'll go through the drills. I'll lock them in, and I'll test them right after. I'll work a certain spot, like, I don't know, abdominals. We'll test, do
Hmm.
the wake up drill, retest, and they'll be like, "You're not pushing as hard." I go, "I
Right.
swear to you, I could sit on your chest right now, because the test is a sit up for those, like, you guys don't know, but the test is a sit up, and I'll push them apart and be able to push their trunk down. I could sit on your trunk and you're not going to move. You're going to be able to hold that, no problem." Um,
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. Uh,
When I've done it with I've learned more about some of this, and like the glute test, you can tell a lot by how they fail. If they fail, like, okay, it's one of three failures, and if you know what to look for, you can determine, okay, here's how they're trying to compensate, and then you get them locked in. And I was doing it with a kid over Christmas break, and uh, his leg went down pretty easy the first time, and then you do it, and he locks in, and the second time, like, literally, I was in a push-up position with my hands on his hamstring, trying to
yep.
push couldn't move him,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there's a lot of dramatic things. And Douglas Heel, I mean, he has some stuff that's still, I consider, original to him. I know all this started with him,
Yeah.
but he has some other things that he does that, for whatever reason, didn't make it to RPR, that are pretty amazing too. And
Yeah.
uh, just how your body, all in how your body works.
I tried reaching out to him because I wanted to take some of his courses, because I'm like, man, this guy's onto something. But I never got an answer back. So hopefully I can
Yeah.
take another like a course of his in the future. But one thing that I found, I find pretty interesting is looking for, so when we test people and we're watching a move, we want to look at, like, what are their expressions, and where, like, are they trying to get this stability from. So one thing that they'll notice is, like, when you're testing and someone's really pushing, if they're clenching their jaw,
Hmm.
and if people are telling me that they've got a jaw problem, or they grind their teeth, they're likely trying to get that stability from their jaw instead of from their hips, their glutes, their core, and utilizing that, or their breathing. And so, we'll do the drills, and then all of a sudden they're not clenching. They're not clenching their jaw, and they're utilizing their hips and their core the way that they should be, their motor patterns, because that's really what we're changing. We're giving input to the nervous system, changing our feedback to the nervous system to then allow us to move with less compensatory patterns. So you're moving the way that you should, which results in improved performance, decrease in pain, decrease in risk of injury. We do know that those two go hand in hand, and allows you to get into that parasympathetic state easier. So everyone's so stressed right now, in the world that we're in. Everyone's in a sympathetic state. If we can get in that parasympathetic state quicker, we're going to recover better and we're going to perform better. And so, um, that's something that is not focused on, I find, enough, is being able to get into that relaxed state, which this focuses on a ton. Uh,
And I think that the other thing that I think is hard is, the breathing part of it, because it's really hard for someone who's not used to, diaphragmatic breathing, to
well,
really embrace that. Like, they're going to do it all day. No, they're not. Like, they're going to forget about it. And they're going to be walking down the hall breathing with their chest again. But this way, you actually have a tool, that can get them more to where they should be. That's going to hang with them,
Yep.
and that's something that I know is a big question if you follow the RPR people. That well, how long they get asked a lot? How long does it last? And what I've had our players at Allendale ask me that, and I'm like, who cares? Like, there's no there's no reason if you feel like you're off a little bit, then do it again.
Yep.
Like, why not? It's not like you do it twice, it turns off. So um, there's really no overdoing it. When I do it in the morning, I do all 13. Like, I do the total body. Now, I know a lot of people that do zone one. Okay, I get that. That's great. I choose to do the whole thing, and uh, so it's uh, yeah, I think it's pretty neat, and I'm excited to learn more about it and take it to the next level of you know being able to use it diagnostically more, or
Yep. And
you
I
know,
think I think you hit on the breathing spot right on. So one thing that I try to teach a lot of people too, the very first step of this is learning how to diaphragmatically breathe and use your diaphragm. There is such a large portion of the population that has no clue how to breathe with their diaphragm. And so I'll try and teach them. And so if those of you listening right now want to try this, you can put your hands on your belly. Okay. And what you want to do is you want to breathe in, ideally through your nose, and you should feel your belly expand into your hand. Now, if you feel your chest going up before your belly's expanding, you're not using your diaphragm. And so many people don't know how to do that. It's mind blowing. They're like, what are you talking about? So we have to go through all these cues, and I'll have to take them through this process. Sometimes they'll get it pretty quickly once I kind of cue them a little bit further. Sometimes it takes quite a bit. We'll spend a good 10 minutes trying to figure out how to diaphragmatically breathe. Um, that's just wild to me, that how many people really can't get that.
oh, you were talking about the guys that aren't locked in, and you can push them around and all, or uh, getting stability from their jaw. The other one you see is the big inhale, chest inhale. Like, they're going to get that. Okay, that's a telltale sign. Like, we're way off base here. We we have no idea what we're doing,
Yep.
and yeah, it's been a great thing for me personally and professionally, and uh, I think it's just going to keep growing. Really
Oh,
do.
absolutely. And when it comes to that barrel chested, what I think of is a lot of the weightlifters, um, your power lifters especially, and they're trying to get that stability from their chest when they should really be, if they would use their diaphragm, they would be much stronger. And I
Right.
think JL Holdsworth talks about the one guy that
Yeah.
he worked with where he went from a 600-pound PR squat that he did the week before he had the RPR done, and then he hit 690 right after doing that RPR, the wake up drills. So
Yeah, it's and the way that I don't know, I've learned, it's been completely educational for me, and how, if you're into the kinetic chain and how all that, and how injury, one problem here leads to another problem there, and yeah, it's been very educational for me, and I've enjoyed learning about it and look forward to learning a lot more about it.
yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on and talking with me today about this. So, and thanks again for introducing this to me because it really has changed how, I've been working with a lot of my athletes, and so many of my athletes too are like, holy cow, like they see a huge difference and now they're incorporating it. And,
Hmm.
it's only helping, again, reduce injuries, improve performance. Everyone's happy when it comes to that. So,
Well, when you get ready to take your level two, I'll hit you back up and you can tell me all about that. So,
yeah, no, I'll keep you
uh,
posted for sure on that.
Yeah, it's been great, and I'm a firm believer. I'll do it the rest of my life, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks so much again for coming on, Jack. If anyone listening is interested in learning more about RPR, feel free to reach out to myself or to Coach Jack Ginn here. And if someone wanted to ask you about it, Jack, where could they reach you at? What's the best place to reach
The
you?
easiest thing is probably Twitter at Jack Ginn,
All right.
JackGinn. Pretty
All right.
easy.
Awesome. So Twitter at Jack Ginn. That's where you can reach him if you have any questions on RPR. So thanks again, and we'll be sure to stay in touch, and I'll let you know when I'm taking that level 2.
Sounds good.
All right. See ya.